In part 1, we showed you 23 facts about World War I, from the post-traumatic effects to the gruesome numbers and their global impact. Well, we are not done yet, as we have 23 more gripping facts about the Great War, a war that changed the future and the people involved. One, the greatest single loss of life in the history of the British Army occurred during the Battle of Somme, when the British suffered 60,000 casualties in one day. More British men were killed in that battle than the U.S. lost from all of its armed forces and the National Guard combined. 2. The Harlem Hellfighters were one of the few African-American units that saw the front lines. For their extraordinary acts of heroism, the soldiers received the French Croix de Guerre, a medal awarded to soldiers from Allied countries for bravery in combat. However, in the U.S., their deeds were largely ignored. 3. During World War I, the Turks slaughtered approximately 1.5 million Armenians. This act of genocide would later attract the attention of Hitler and was partly responsible for sowing the seeds of the Holocaust. 4. After World War I, Britain's leadership in the world economy was gone forever. It had huge debts, high unemployment, and slow growth. France suffered as well. Most of the loans it had made to Tsarist Russia were never repaid. Inflation was rampant, and large parts of the country were ruined. 5. The war helped bring about the emancipation of women, as it illustrated that they could perform traditionally male jobs as well. In 1918, most women over the age of 30 were given the vote in the British parliamentary elections. 2 years later, the 19th Amendment granted American women the right to vote. 6. The war transformed the United States into the largest military power in the world. 7. In August 1914, German troops shot and killed 150 civilians at Airshot 19th. The killing was part of war policy known as Schrecklichkeit, meaning frightfulness. Its purpose was to terrify civilians in occupied areas so that they would not rebel. 8. After the war, Finland, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, and Poland emerged as independent nations. 9. On Christmas Eve in 1914, soldiers on both sides of the Western Front sang carols to each other. On Christmas Day, troops along 2/3 of the front declared a truce. In some places, the truce lasted a week. A year later, sentries on both sides were ordered to shoot anyone who attempted to repeat the performance. 10. Nearly 13,000 Native Americans fought for the United States in World War I. However, they were only given citizenship in 1924, 6 years after the end of the war. 11. Edith Cavell, a British nurse who saved soldiers from all sides, helped 200 Allied soldiers escape from German-occupied Belgium. However, the Germans arrested her, and she was executed by a German firing squad. Her death helped turn global opinion against Germany. 12. More than 500,000 pigeons carried messages between headquarters and the front lines. Groups of pigeons trained to return to the front lines were dropped into occupied areas by parachutes and kept there until soldiers had messages to send back. 13. The Germans were skilled at intercepting and solving Allied codes, capturing 1 out of 4 paper messengers. However, when a U.S. commander used Choctaw tribe members from the Oklahoma National Guard unit, they used an extremely complex language that the Germans could not translate. The 8 Choctaw men and others who joined them became known as the Choctaw Code talkers. 14. Woodrow Wilson's campaign slogan for his second term was, "He kept us out of war." But about a month after he took office, the United States declared war on Germany on April 6, 1917. 15. During the span of the war, 274 German U-boats sank 6,596 ships. Most of these were sunk near the coast, particularly in the English Channel. 16. World War I introduced the widespread use of the machine gun, a weapon Hiram Maxim patented in the U.S. in 1884. The Maxim weighed about 100 pounds and could fire about 450-600 rounds per minute. Most machine guns used in the war were based on the Maxim design. 17. The most decorated American of the war was Alvin Cullum York. York led an attack on a German gun nest, taking 32 machine guns, killing 28 German soldiers, and capturing 132 more. He returned home with the Medal of Honor, a promotion to sergeant, the French Croix de Guerre, and a gift of 400 acres of good farmland. 18. The trench network of World War I stretched approximately 40,200 kilometers, which is 25,000 miles from the English Channel to Switzerland. 19. Margaretha Zell, also known as Mata Hari, was a Dutch exotic dancer accused of being a double agent. Though she always denied being a spy, the French executed her in 1917. 20. World War I helped hasten medical advances. Physicians learned better wound management in the setting of bones. Harold Gillies, a doctor from New Zealand, pioneered skin graft surgery and was the pioneer of modern plastic surgery. 21. The long-term effects of the war include the formation of the League of Nations, which laid the groundwork for the United Nations. Additionally, the Treaty of Versailles imposed severe sanctions on Germany, which drove the country into a deep recession, setting the groundwork for World War II. 22. World War I was also the catalyst that transformed Russia into the Union of the Soviet Socialist Republic, USSR. It was the creation of the world's first communist state and ushered in a new phase in world history. 23. The last person to die in the war was a Canadian private named George Lawrence Price. He died moments before the ceasefire. The ceasefire happened on November 11, 1918, when the Germans signed an armistice, which is an agreement for peace. The war would see the nations involved suffer great consequences on economic, political fronts, and see the collapse of old empires and the rise of new nations and powers. It wouldn't be for another 20 years before the world would be dragged into battle again, this time with more advanced technology and a shift in powers. In our coming videos, we will take you into another war journey, uncovering real-life facts about World War II and its impact on the world we live in today. So be sure to subscribe. Until next time, it is goodbye.